Good morning. I'm going to teach part 2 of the lesson Lost Spring by Anisha. It is called I Want to Drive a Car. Just like part 1 was a story of Sahib who lives in the slums of Simapuri, part 2 is a story of Mukesh who is a bangle maker in Firozabad. So this part tells us the story of the poor bangle makers of Firozabad. It starts like this. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. So the writer met a boy named Mukesh who aspired to become a motor mechanic. She asked him if he knew anything about cars. Word meanings. Looking straight into my eyes means to look with confidence and determination. Looms like a mirage. Mirage means an illusion or something that is not real. So it is something that seems to be true, but in reality it is not so. Hinting that maybe Mukesh's dreams of becoming a motor mechanic will never materialize. Next word, amidst, means in the middle of. The boy was confident and replied that he would learn how to drive a car. His dream was far away from reality, and although he was confident, he succumbed to. Succumb means to give in. So he would give in to the societal pressures, the pressures put by the society, because he belonged to an underprivileged, impoverished class. He lived in Firozabad, which was famous for its glass bangles. The writer felt that the boy's dreams would not materialize and would gradually get influenced by the dusty streets of Firozabad. Almost every family in that town was involved in bangle making. Eventually, Mukesh would also follow the same path, right? They had been making bangles since generations. Word meanings now. Glass blowing industry means an industry that is related to making glass. Furnaces. A furnace is a place, it can be a room or a container where the heat is very, very high. It requires very great temperatures to melt glass. Welding. Welding is a process by which one can join metal or glass. So once a bangle is rolled, it needs to be joined, and that process is known as welding. Firozabad is the main town in India that is famous for its glass blowing industry. The families had been involved in working at furnaces, welding glass and making bangles for generations. Mukesh's family was also involved in the profession of glass bangle making. Those people did not know that it was unlawful to make the children work in the bangle factory, especially under such severe conditions. So they don't have the knowledge that child labor is unlawful and prohibited in our country. Some word meanings. Dingy means dark or dim. Slog means to work hard. Daylight hours means hours of the day when there is sun or the daytime. Brightness of their eyes refers to their power to see. The workplaces where these children and other workers, they put in their labor or worked, were hot, dark, closed rooms without ventilation. If the law was enforced here, it would rescue almost 20,000 children from these inhuman places where they were forced to work during the day. They often ended up losing their eyesight. By the time they reached adulthood, they had already lost their power or their eyesight had become very weak. Meanings. beam means to shine brightly. Volunteers means to freely offer to do something. So Mukesh offers to take the narrator to his house. Mukesh was happy as he volunteers to take her to his house. He felt proud to inform her that it was being renovated. Stinking means bad smell, choked means blocked. They walked down the street. Now, let me draw this picture for you. He lives in a slum area where there are makeshift houses. The lanes are really very narrow. They are filled with garbage. Lanes are open. And it is stinking. So, there are a lot of such open places where garbage is stinking. So, there is a lot of foul smell or bad smell there. Hovels. The houses are described as hovels. What is a hovel? It is a small, dirty house in a very bad condition, almost like a hole. Crumbling means falling apart. Wobbly means unsteady. The small, dirty houses were in a bad condition. Their walls were falling apart, doors were unsteady, and there were no windows. Coexisting means living together in the same place. Primeval means prehistoric. Bangs means hits. These slums were full of families where people coexisted, means lived along with the animals. They reminded the writer of the prehistoric men who lived just like animals. Mukesh stopped in front of one such door, hit it hard with his foot and pushed it open. Let me give you the word meanings now. Shack means a roughly built hut. Thatched means a roof built with dry grass. Vessel is a container which is used for cooking food here. Sizzling, to make a hissing sound while frying or cooking. And platters are large plates. Chopped means to cut finely. Now, as they enter the house, Mukesh's house was a partially constructed hut. In one corner was a firewood stove made with dead grass. On the ground, there were more plates with chopped vegetables in them. A young woman was sitting there on the ground. She was frail. Frail means she was thin and weak. Eyes filled with smoke means that her eyes are filled with smoke that are coming out of the firewood stove. Command respect means she is worthy and so she is respected. A thin young woman, her name is Savita, was cooking. No, her name is not given here. A thin young woman was cooking the evening meal for the family. Her eyes were full of smoke that was rising from the fire that she was using for cooking her food, that is the stove. But she was still cheerful and smiled at the writer. She was the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Although she was not much older than Mukesh, she was a responsible person and was worthy of getting respect from her family. As she was a daughter-in-law and she was taking up all the responsibilities, hence everyone respected her. She looked after them in turn. She took care of all the three men in her family, that is her husband, Mukesh, and their father. Withdraws means goes back. Veils means a piece of fine material which is worn by women over their face to protect or hide it. She is covering her face with a veil. As Mukesh's father entered the house, she went behind the wall and covered her face with a veil. She did it because it was a tradition for a daughter-in-law and it is also a mark of respect for the older members of the family, and Mukesh's father is the older member. Impoverished means very poor. Labor means hard work. The elder here is a poor bangle maker. He had worked hard all his life, first as a tailor and then as a bangle maker. He was still not able to either renovate the house or send his sons to school. He had just managed to teach them the skill of bangle making because that is the only thing that he knows. There are some Hindi words also that have been used in the story. Karam means fate or destiny. God-given lineage means a profession carried on through generations. Here it was the profession of bangle making. Mukesh's grandmother justified her son, that is Mukesh's father, by saying that he was destined to make bangles. It was his karam or destiny. She had seen her husband become blind due to the dust from the glass making industry. She said that their family had got this art of bangle making from God, and so they had to carry on this tradition. Yard means open area at the back of the house. They were born in a particular caste which had to follow the profession of bangle making. All their life, they had just seen bangles. Word meanings: mounds means heaps, unkempt means untidy or not taken care of, piled, to make a pile or keep one on top of the other. Shanty town is a town that is full of small, roughly built houses. The bangles were everywhere, in the backyard, in the next house, in their yard, and even in the street and in the town. There were huge spiral bunches of bangles in different colors, like gold, green, blue, pink, purple, and all the colors of the rainbow. The writer says that there were bangles in the yards also. They were dumped on the hand carts for sale. They were pushed by men along the streets of Firozabad. The meaning of the word welding is joining. The writer describes the environment where these bangle makers work. They were small, dark huts. The children sit next to a line of oil lamps whose flames were unsteady. They, along with their parents, joined the pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. As they spent a lot of time in the dark, their eyes did not adapt to the bright sunlight. You know, if we sit inside a dingy room and if we go out suddenly, we start squinting because our eyes are not used to such bright light. This is what used to happen with these children. They used to spend their daytime inside these furnaces. After that, many of them lost their eyesight even before they became adults. I'm going to now give you the story of Savita. There was a young girl, her name was Savita. She was sitting with an elderly woman there, and they were both joining the pieces of glass to make bangles. Her hands moved just like the tongs of a machine. Drab means faded or colorless. She's wearing an old colorless sari. Tongs, an instrument with two movable arms that are joined at one end. You know what are tongs? Sanctity, the state of being sacred or holy, and auspiciousness means good omen. So these are two women. One is very young and the other one is really old, are sitting together making bangles. One has yet to see the life ahead, and the other one has already lived her life. So a contrast has been drawn here. She thought, that is the old woman, thought that Savita would realize this day when she would become a bride. That day she would cover her head with a red colored veil, color her hands with henna or mehendi, and wear red colored bangles on her wrist the elderly woman, had also become a bride many, many years back. She was still wearing the glass bangles, but she had lost her eyesight now. Another Hindi word, ser, has been used here. Ser means a unit of measurement. It is something less than a kilogram. So it refers to sufficient. Here it refers to enough or sufficient. Reaped means received as a benefit. The elderly woman complained that she had not eaten enough food even once in her life, ever since she got married. That is, all that she has received by adopting the profession of bangle making. Her husband is old and he has a flowing beard. He says that he does not know anything other than bangle making, and that is the sad tale of most of the people who live here and are involved in this industry, and that is the reason why they are unable to escape from this industry. All that he has been able to do is to make a house for himself and his family to live in. That too is an achievement here. The writer wonders that probably the old man has achieved something which many other people have not been able to achieve. At least he has been able to secure a shelter for his family. Rings means a sound. It's used as a verb here. A sound which is repeated. Echo also means to repeat. Lament means to complain. Mind numbing means something that is quite, it makes your mind numb or dull. Toil means physical hard work which is done to earn a living. That is what it means here. This problem, that is not being able to break out of the shackles of the bangle making industry, is prevalent in all the homes which carried on this profession. They did not know anything else except for bangle making. But sadly and ironically, despite putting so much hard work, they are not even able to make sufficient enough money to even fill their stomachs properly. That is the irony here. It is a sad story. The young men who had entered the traditional profession also had the same complaint. There had been no improvement in their condition with the passage of time. They had been working here since countless years, innumerable years, but no change had come in their working conditions. They did not even have the resourcefulness of doing anything else because their fathers didn't know anything. They didn't have the means to educate them. So here they were stuck in the same profession. They had even lost their dream. And this is the contrast. Here is Mukesh, who is still able to dream. Hauled up means dragged or taken away. The writer suggests that they form a cooperative as an escape from their problems. She talked to a group of young men to get out of the clutches of the cruel middlemen who had trapped their elders. The men said that if they dared to do something like that, they would be dragged and beaten up by the police and sent to jail. Their acts would be termed as unlawful. The writer felt that the problem was that they did not have a leader. They could not think of doing things differently. They all were so tired of their never-ending miseries. The meaning of spiral is a never-ending continuous process. And here it also refers to going up. The spiral is going up. Like the bangle makers are at the bottommost, then you have the middlemen, policemen, sahukars, bureaucrats, and so on. As the financial state improved, so the level was higher up, like that. Apathy means indifference or lack of concern. Greed, is a selfish desire to attain something. The men complained of the bangle making industry. They are the ones who complained because they are the exploited ones. That it was a never-ending cycle that moved upwards, spiraled upwards. At the base was their poverty. Above it was the indifference of the people who employed them. They did not want to do anything for them or improve their condition, because if they did, then it would reduce their own profit margins. Hence, injustice was done to them, the poor Bangals of Firozabad. Meaning of distinct is separate, stigma is dishonor. There is another issue that has been brought up here, and that is the caste, which is a stigma. Two separate worlds existed here. One was of such families who were stuck in poverty. They were forced to follow the traditional profession because of the caste that they were born into. They were born into the caste of bangle makers. Vicious means cruel, which is done in order to hurt someone. Bureaucrats are government officials. The other world, there are two worlds. One is of the poor bangle makers. The other world is of the bureaucrats, money lenders, middlemen, policemen, law keepers, government officials, politicians. So that is the other world. Imposed means to be forced upon. Baggage here refers to burden. To dare means to do something outrageous, something which is not common or usual. Both of these worlds had forced the young to follow their family traditions. They got into the profession and they became a part of this vicious cycle. If they did anything else, it meant that they were challenging higher authorities. And of course, the higher authorities, they were rich people. They had the power and the influence to bring them down. Hurtling down means moving around. These boys had not been reared up to be bold so that they could dare to go against the system. Their upbringing was such that they were submissive. They accepted whatever was given to them. The writer was happy to sense. This is how Mukesh is different. Mukesh has a dream. It is a very small and tiny dream of being a motor mechanic, but he still has a spark. The others don't even have that much. So he had the spark of motivation in him. He was quite determined about realizing his dream of becoming a motor mechanic. He is ready to walk to a garage that is far away from his home. This tells us how determined he is about fulfilling his dream. To learn the job of being a motor mechanic. The author asks him if he ever dreams of flying an aeroplane. The question embarrasses him and Mukesh refuses and says, "No, I do not dream to fly an aeroplane." He is satisfied to dream about cars. He does not know much about planes. There are hardly any planes that fly over Firozabad. As he had seen only cars moving around in the town in which he lived, his dreams were restricted to them. That too is an unattainable dream for the others. He is satisfied with a more tangible and attainable dream that is related to these fast-moving cars that he saw on the streets. Another thing, airplanes symbolize something that are distant. It is just like a far-fetched dream. People of Firozabad were not exposed to such grand dreams. That is the end of the explanation of the chapter. Few airplanes fly over. And now I'm going to give you the significance of the title. The title Lost Spring conveys that childhood is like spring. Spring, the season spring. As everything blooms in this season, so should childhood. Means childhood should also bloom in this season. However, children like Sahib and Mukesh are deprived of their childhood due to extreme poverty. The springtime of their lives is therefore lost and destroyed in a web of poverty, dirt, dust, and other such things. Page number 20, I'm going to take up some question answers now. Understanding the text. What could be some of the reasons for the migration of people from villages to the cities. People migrate from villages to cities in the search of a better life. They want to earn money so that they can lead a good life and rear their children in a better way. Cities have more opportunities for work. This makes the people migrate from villages to towns. Question 2. Would you agree that promises made to poor children are rarely kept? Why do you think this happens in the incidents narrated in the text? Well, one can agree that promises made to poor people are hardly ever kept and or fulfilled. In the first part, the writer jokingly questions the rag picker boy to join a school that she would open. And later on, when she realizes her mistake, she feels embarrassed. But Sahib does not feel hurt. Why? Because he's used to such false promises. He takes it to be true earlier, but later on he is not hurt. So, this is what it is, that the affluent people, the rich people do make promises, but they hardly ever keep those promises. Question 3. What forces conspire to keep the workers in the bangle industry of Firozabad in poverty? The writer tells us that the bangle makers of Firozabad are burdened by the stigma of the particular caste. That's one thing. It's a stigma which the higher classes have imposed on them for their own benefits and material good. They have to continue the traditional profession. Further, the society has formed a vicious circle around them. As we have already discussed, the money lenders, middlemen, policemen, bureaucrats, law keepers, politicians, they all together, they form a barrier around them and tie them in a grip of poverty. They, that is these poor people, cannot escape from this. The second part is thinking about the text. How, in your opinion, can Mukesh realize his dream? This is a value-based question. So, you are open to your opinion. Let me discuss how to handle value-based questions. You have to pick up evidence from the text. You have to justify your opinion. That is very important. Mukesh dared to dream. I was just talking about how he can realize his dream. And his dream was of becoming a motor mechanic. He wanted to drive cars too. He took the initial step by aspiring to do something different from his family business. And if he works hard with dedication and determination, he can fulfill his dreams. Why not? On the other hand, you may also say that one day, as he grows up, one day he would eventually realize that it's very hard to break this vicious cycle, and probably he accepts his work as his karam, fate, or destiny. Mention the hazards or dangers of working in the glass bangle industry. The poor bangle makers in Firozabad work in dangerous conditions. The furnaces have very high temperatures and there is no ventilation at all. Hence, they are prone to ailments or diseases like lung problems, etc. While polishing the bangles, the dust harms the eyes and many lose their vision. So, these are the two biggest and gravest dangers of working in this industry. They remain in the dark for very long hours and they are unable to see day even during daytime, which makes them prone to many other diseases as well. The next one, why should child labor be eliminated and how? This also requires higher order thinking skills and some kind of application, right? Forcing a child to work is a crime. That has been stated in the text also. This is so in order to prevent exploitation of children. If children are forced to work, they cannot even they cannot live their childhood. They can't get proper education. So they aren't able to grow up as mature, thinking adults. They are forced into hazardous work, which means that they get diseased at a very young age. This quite much ruins their future prospects. Now, coming to their families and their parents ignore all of these aspects because they give birth to the children so that they can have more hands to work. So, they don't bother anything about the comforts of these children, about their future or anything. What they are interested in is the money that they get. So, it is the responsibility of the higher authorities and the government to become more proactive and to take sterner measures against such people. That's the end of the class. Thank